When did listening to your boss make them regret it? My boss, Richard, called me into his office right after I finished fixing the company servers that had been crashing all week. I had worked 80 hours, including 3 straight nights with no sleep. He didn't even wait for me to sit down. You lack commitment to this company. I just stood there staring at him. You clock in at 9 and leave at 5 like it's a McDonald's shift. You do the bare minimum. You never volunteer for anything extra. The servers I just saved had prevented the company from losing over $1 million, and he didn't even acknowledge it. He pulled out a printed document and slid it across his desk without looking at me. This is your job description from when you were hired. This lists the bare minimum requirements. Real employees exceed this every single day. That's what separates people who get promoted from people who stay stuck. I picked up the paper and scanned through it. Hours listed as 9 to 5. Specific responsibilities and bullet points. Nothing about overtime or weekend work. Starting tomorrow, I expect to see real commitment from you. Prove you actually deserve to be here. He waved his hand dismissively and looked back at his computer. You're absolutely right. I'll commit to this. Richard just nodded without even glancing up. The next morning, I walked in at exactly 9 o'clock. Richard was at his desk and his head snapped up when he saw the time. I'd been getting there at 7:30 every day for 3 years. He came over within minutes. You're late. I held up the paper he'd given me. My hours are 9 to 5. His jaw tightened. You've always been here early. I kept my voice even. I was exceeding my requirements. You said that was the problem. His neck turned red as he walked away. That afternoon, the clock hit 5 and I stood up and shut down my computer mid-sentence. Richard came running out of his office. Where are you going? We have the system deployment at 6. I pointed to the hours section. My commitment ends at 5. His face went from confused to pissed. Everyone stays for deployments. I walked to the elevator. Then the team can handle it. The deployment failed and cost the company $40,000. The next day, Richard sent an email asking for volunteers for a weekend system upgrade. Everyone replied that they'd help. I deleted it. Richard showed up at my desk 20 minutes later and I could hear the edge in his voice. I noticed you didn't volunteer. I didn't look up. My responsibilities don't include weekends. He leaned forward. This is a major company initiative. Everyone is participating. I finally met his eyes. Then you'll have plenty of help. His hands shook slightly when he walked away. The project got postponed because I was the only one who knew how to do it. Richard had to push back the client's launch date by 2 months. Then our largest client had a system failure on a Tuesday evening. My phone started ringing at 6:15. 7 calls from Richard in 10 minutes. The voicemails were panicked. Pick up right now. This is an emergency. The Morrison account is completely down. I texted him a photo of my contract with the hours highlighted. The next morning, Richard was still wearing yesterday's clothes. His eyes were bloodshot. Morrison was down for 15 hours. They lost $300,000. Where were you? My heart was pounding. My hours are 9 to 5, he yelled. This was an emergency. I just stared at him. Emergency support isn't in my responsibilities. I watched something break behind his eyes. You're doing this on purpose. I felt weirdly calm. I'm showing you my commitment. Morrison was threatening to leave, and Richard had made everything worse trying to fix it himself. Richard tried getting other engineers to learn my systems, but nobody understood how anything worked. Then came the quarterly board meeting. I'd been building his presentation slides for 2 years. The night before at 5, I stood up to leave. Richard practically ran over. Wait, I need you to prep the board presentation. My stomach dropped, but I kept my face blank. That's not in my job description. His voice cracked. I can't do the technical presentation without your help. I grabbed my jacket. You'll figure it out. His presentation the next morning was a disaster. The board sat in uncomfortable silence. The chairman asked why his senior engineer wasn't in the room. Richard said I was committed to my job description. The chairman asked to see it. When Richard pulled it up, the chairman asked one question. If presentation support is critical, why isn't it in his contract? Richard had no answer. Then we lost our second largest client. Richard tried to write me up and copied HR. My hands shook when I replied. I attached our original conversation where Richard told me to commit to my job description. I added one line. I'm doing exactly what Richard instructed. HR responded within an hour, requesting we both come in tomorrow morning. I barely slept that night. The next morning, the CEO walked in with the legal director. The CEO looked at Richard. We pulled the records. 800 hours of unpaid overtime in 1 year. He was doing your job and his job. Richard pointed at me. He sabotaged everything. I placed my job description on the table with his signature. I committed to this like he told me to. Security escorted Richard out. He yelled back, "You destroyed my career." I looked at him. I followed your policy.